Hello, everyone. My name is Parth Pithani. I'm your host for Robot Forward Warehousing Podcast, and today I'm joined by Padhu from OSHA Commerce. It's funny, but mine and Padhu's journey has been interlinked for a while, if you will. We both started. He was before at Manhattan, and I started at Manhattan. We were in the same cricket team, and then we crossed so many paths because just being in Atlanta, and I'm excited for him to join as well today because. Padhu is in a very unique position, if you will. He is leading OSHA Commerce right now, but also from his past experience, if you look at his LinkedIn, you can see he has spent a very good time in the industry. He knows um, how to make automation robotics happen, as well as been an end user of automation robotics. So we'll talk a lot about all those things today. But before we get into it, I'll ask Padhu if you can introduce yourself and what you're working on it right now.
Thank you, Pat. Very excited to be here today. And thanks for the opportunity as well. Padhu Raman, co-founder and CEO at OSA Commerce. Been in the industry for almost shy of 25 years now. Majority of the time I've spent at Manhattan Associates, if you're aware. And that's where the breeding ground of supply chain and knowledge gathering and experience to educate yourself because of the sheer exposure to number of implementations and deployments that you do across different verticals over a period of within a year, right? I mean, that's the advantage that you get. So that is the experience that you gain by being there in the field and working with the customers, understanding day-to-day challenges, right? And so from there, after Manhattan, I actually was more of an implementation of the system. Then I moved to being the implementee as well as and also being consumer of the system. So I ran my own part of a 3PL, 4PL business where was a part of an operations and ran as an operator implementing systems. So that also had a different experience, right? Because you are on both sides, you understand the challenges, the requirements, and how to mitigate risks. You understand a lot of other side of the story, which you really, although you understand, unless you practically go through, you may not have that experience. And then finally, right now, I'm started this company with my other partners, who focused primarily in providing a complete end-to-end fulfillment and e-commerce solution, right from the order, from a post-order capture to order orchestration to order fulfillment and delivery, and provide the complete system with integration to automation and AI and other aspects of advanced technology that keeps coming. That's a quick.
No. But that's awesome. No, that's awesome. I think when you said about Manhattan, I think someone actually posted on LinkedIn. It's like if you trace so many companies' roots, they're all coming back to Manhattan at some place or some time. So it's pretty amazing to see. And I think you made a very solid point. Like why does that happen? Because I think the exposure that a company gives and to different problems that are in the industry, and everyone tries to then solve for it. I think that is a value in that. Which is a very solid observation actually. So, Padu, building up on that, right? So, as you mentioned that you have been on the end user side, you have done the operations, you have been a part of 3PL, 4PL world. I think I want to poke a little bit on that side of the experience because I think that's something I'm very curious to understand. I would love to understand the decision making process and how the journey happens and stuff around that. So I think let's start with the very first question that I have on my mind is around like the optimization approach, right? So when you think about a 3PL fulfilling orders or 4PL fulfilling orders for e-commerce, I think from the operation side, it is pretty much if you think about a dry thing like pick, pack, and ship. But from the engineering side, which includes the software as well as the industrial engineering opportunities, I feel like there is a process to this madness, and I think I would love to understand from your side is when you think about this process of the integration of systems, processes, and automation. What have you seen the most successful, or is there an approach that you think it's a good approach to go with?
So the for any system or any implementation, right? First, it has to look at what are we trying to solve from a business perspective, right? And it is very important to look at the business perspective, what is there in the current state, what has happened in the past, and then look for what is the future trend, right? And in this world of e-commerce, omni-channel, whether you're looking from the prism of a 3PL or a retailer or brand, you're using a 3PL, things relatively are different, right? And now you are trying to approach the problem, and now you're going to solve. But still, the fundamentals doesn't change. Right? You're looking for, okay, what is that I'm trying to solve from a business perspective, right? And then what is the ultimate goal that I want to achieve? The one aspect has definitely changed or constant across the enterprises is not looking from a siloed view perspective. Traditionally, when you look at an let's take a simple example, right? I am a footwear supplier or a brand. I am having retail stores. They have 200 plus retail stores. I am shipping to those retail stores. Now, when I'm designing a fulfillment center in traditional way, I'm looking for, okay, how do I optimize from a push perspective, right? Because I'm going to plan the product. I'm going to get the product a certain duration and time, and then based on the seasonality and brands, I'm going to take the product and push it to my store in a set pattern. Right? I mean, generally, you don't. I mean, if you think about it, even when you do retail implementations, you say, okay, what is your regular delivery, you call a milk run and everything, right? You plan that delivery mode and you optimize to that, right, to the end extent. In those instances, your network and the end-to-end is defined. Then you basically keep optimizing a certain processes. One example would be I go double click on a warehouse process and look at, okay, picking is where I'm spending a lot of money, my cost is going up, I'm having challenges in picking, labor shortage. My my SKU profile doesn't change, my order profile doesn't change, my delivery profile doesn't change. Most are all static outside the warehouse, right? And so in that case, you're easy to think through, okay, I'm going to optimize automation. So you think about what are the different levels of automation. You look at, okay, picking manual, I'm getting 80 to 90 units per hour. Okay, if I put a voice, maybe I'm getting to 110, 120 because it helps user to do better job. Now, if I put a sortation system or a conveyor or whatever it takes, I plan and I optimize in a siloed way in that particular piece of work. Right? Today's world is not like that. You cannot change a particular piece of cost optimization work and then assume that the entire network is going to improve, because the way of approach of e-commerce has changed dynamically, because your ordering patterns are changed, your SKU profile is changing, your inventory profile is changing. Then you cannot have an automation or a process change in a siloed static way, right? That is the first fundamental principle that needs to be thought through, right? Because the constraints are changing, right? Because today, another example, that footwear example itself, right? Traditionally, you go to a store, you pick the product, whatever shoe you want, whatever socks you want, example, you buy and you go, your point of sale, you as a customer is a picker. Now, in a digital world, if they want to sell that in e-commerce, you may sell as a shoe separately, socks separately, you may sell as a combo product separately. Then when you're selling as a combo product separately in your store, your distribution center should react to that dynamic change. And that change are dynamic, right? So you're trying to, based on the customer's needs and products and reaction time, your competitors, the marketing is going to keep changing the SKU profile dynamically. So how is that going to cascade down to the actual picker? I'm not going to put a static automation where I store all my shoes separately, socks separately somewhere, and I don't have a process to combine them and ship the customer. Like, I'm not going to send two different boxes to a customer, right? There's a lot of complexity comes into the picture. So in summary, whatever the static process of looking from an end-to-end supply chain has changed, you have to look from a more dynamic perspective. You have to look for the dynamism in the SKU profiles, how the SKUs, how the items are spread out. You have to look from a network effect perspective, where the products are, how the products are being shifted. You have to look from an order profile, demand pattern, and you have to look for other constraints, right? Logistics constraints, delivery constraints, facility constraints, procurement constraints. So you have to look from an overall end-to-end network effect, thinking across enterprises, focusing on three broader principles, right? Okay, who are the people involved? how I'm going to mitigate the interact the people, what are the processes that I need to think through across network, even if I'm changing one lever, one automation, one setup, and then looking at an entire platform as a whole and not as one silo process. And that's the fundamental change, right?
Thank you. Actually, that was actually a very good way to think about it, and I think uh, that actually helps a lot when you think about different decision factors that goes into an automation and robotics, because it's not just, hey, I need to solve for picking, but as you mentioned, the push and the pull method versus who are you solving for, and having that network view is very important, I think. And that's one of the things that I've started seeing across the industry as well, that folks who have the resources to spend on it, not just money but from a time perspective as well, to do come up with this network strategy, or like not a siloed approach. But I think a lot of folks are still trying, what at least from my personal opinion is like education is still missing on the end user side. So they sometimes they just want to, because and some it's a industry as well, like the marketing, because like, oh, you have to start your picking, but you don't really understand there could be an overall strategy change as well if you think about your network, and if you need to open up a node or something like that. So actually, you definitely bring up a very good point that you need to have a network view, or just a not
If
a
I can
silo.
add an example and explain, right, if that
Yeah.
helps to further to understand this problem, right? Let us take a 3PL and a retailer. Traditionally, what used to happen is you had a 3PL. First of all, retailers, 10 years ago, they didn't outsource. They all believed in keeping everything in-house and building their own facilities and everything, right? Then as the labor problem increased, as the challenges increased, they looked for 3PLs to outsource. Finally, they realized, okay, I'm not delivering. I'm not going to maintain my own fleet. I'm going to outsource my fleet. So that's where the 3PL move started. And then say, okay, why not the 3PL even handling the labor problem? I'll outsource. They'll have their own. I'll give the systems because I have all the systems I'm implementing across my fulfillment center. I'll ask them to use it. So it was a labor outsourcing, and slowly it all developed. Right now, the everybody's realized is, if I'm outsourcing to 3PL, why do I care what systems they use and how do they use and everything? End of the day, this is the SKU profile, this is the order profile, this is my requirement. Now, think from a perspective of 3PL. 3PL today's world are moving from a single tenant to a multi-tenant. In single tenant, you add a prescribed 3-year, or to say as a contract, right? Okay, I'm going to be with this retailer. This is a 3-year roadmap. This is what I'm going to design the facility. You tailor, you customize, you optimize for that particular retailer's flow. It's a footwear, apparel, and you designed, and it was exactly, if you walk into a 3PL building, you look like as if you're walking inside a retailer warehouse, right? Because that's what it's designed, specifically customized, developed for that particular
Hmm.
retailer for 3 to 5 years, right? But today that is changing because the
Yep.
retailer, what used to do from a traditional or retail store delivery and outsourcing, the requirements has changed. So now they are moving, and the business is moving to e-commerce in different variety. They're doing drop ships. The volume is going down. So now the 3PL's investments is not getting them the same trend of benefits as used to. That's one aspect, right? The second is, 3PL is looking to support. Okay, what are it's a thin margin environment. So where do I
Yeah.
go to get a little bit more bump, right, and compete, and like what Amazon is offering as a multi-network solution. So 3PLs are moving to a multi-channel, right? So one,
Hmm.
moving from a single tenant to a multi-tenant. When you move from a single tenant to a multi-tenant, then my SKU profile, order profile changes by the tenant. I want to
Yeah.
utilize it's a economy of scale, sharing of resources, whether it's a capacity sharing or automation sharing or system sharing. It has to be dynamic, flexible, and ability to associate. Right. When I used to run my own 3PL building, one of the three criteria is, okay, my or anything I put into the system, whether I'm putting a people or I'm putting a processes new or a platform, it has to be flexible, scalable for solving my current needs, looking at and understanding from a past as well, and what is the future, how I'm going to get more and more multi-tenants. And with the penetration of e-commerce, penetration of Amazon, and as a free model, people want to look for, I want a better convenience in my selection of the product. I want to engage what I'm going to select and get delivered. I want a better experience how fast. So either you can be in Amazon ecosystem or you need to have another a broader ecosystem. So 3PLs are now developing different ecosystems, right? So for that, they need to have a solution flexible. So they need to design their systems flexible, right? So that they can cater to multi-tenant, multiple SKU, multiple unit of measures, multiple requirements. One of the interesting, when I taking my own example, when I'm trying to when I ran a 3PL, we designed a goods to person system, deployed it, made it more flexible because we knew that that's the most flexible. I can adopt to different product types, different order profiles, whether I'm doing a retail, wholesale, e-com. But suddenly we were thrown a challenge. The challenge was that there are a lot of Chinese marketplaces, like Shein is one example, right? There are many other places where the pick pack happens in the China, and then they ship the actual packaged product because it's cheaper from a
Yep.
cost unit economics perspective. But the problem is when the product is shipped out, you really don't know what SKU it is. It's a dynamic SKU because each box is a SKU. It's unique. So, but they want, but the optimization is the product optimization is you get a bulk e-commerce parcels from China. It is basically consolidated because they want a consolidation point. So they want to use the automation because there are small SKUs. One could be a very small parcel, one could be a different size, different products. So they wanted to use a consolidation point. So we were creative to basically onboard them, use a goods to person to use as a sortation and as a put walk, right, to consolidate by zone. So the idea was that, again, think about the automation was designed from a picking perspective, but the requirements changed dynamically. And it was a very good, profitable economy of scale business because all we were doing was getting the product in, putting away in a goods to person system as a finished SKU.
Finished queue.
When the product is and do a optimization of transportation, when the truck shows up from a multi-zone skipping perspective, I'm consolidating in this product. The truck shows up by pulling the goods person again and picking full boxes and then loading and shipping it out. Otherwise, the three constraints it solve, right? It's all my storage constraints because when I'm unloading small products from China, I have to store in a specific location. I can put it in everything. I need to sort it. How do I sort it? The most easiest way, right? So my goods to person became a sortation system. If I had traditional sortation system, the products are different. I can't put it in a belt, different product sizes, expect the scanners to read. So when we did this project, we thought some level of future flexibility. But when the customer came, and I'm not going to say no to a customer where I'm having a bigger, and it was during the COVID time as well, where I am really struggling from an overall execution perspective. But the flexible system, thinking from a future perspective, helped it. It also helped me in challenges. The only challenge was I had to create a dynamic SKU. Instead of a million SKUs, now I had 100 million SKUs in the system.
Correct.
So your system has to be scalable, adaptable, right? Because everything is, and then I need to have a SKU reclassification because these SKUs are like once it comes in, it goes out, it's done. The life cycle is done because you have to have uniqueness there, right? So we created a different logic where we created by zone, and a zone became a SKU, and because that's how the zone skipping works, right? So as long as I'm combining these things together, when the truck shows up for that particular zone, I go call by zone, I get all the packages, and then ship out. I had to use a SKU logic to define that. Reason is because it was a unit picking system, good to person system. I repurposed. So now think about always thinking from how the systems are to be flexible, adaptable, scalable, based on the dynamic requirements of things change, and then that's where the both the heart and science of automation comes into picture.
You touched on a very so first of all, thank you for sharing that example. I think I'm just writing down the notes, and it feels like the challenge that you solve using the goods to person solution. I think that should be a case study on that because it's not an easy thing to solve for it. I think with the system changes and the operational changes that has to go into it, and your WMS needs to be flexible enough, or that I would say scalable enough and flexible enough to account for that because not many WMSs are like that. So I'm just looking at the case study you said. WMS flexibility was there, SKU flexibility was there, and just the overall operational flexibility was there, which was really important for the success of that project, for a goods to person solution that you did.
So the
So
key aspect there, sorry, I just want
no,
to
go
add
ahead,
one more
please. No.
point there, right?
Yeah.
The key aspect is every system has its own purpose, right? We have to understand what is the business purpose that we are solving, right? And we have to understand that the modern requirement from an e-commerce omni-channel perspective, you are moving away from a traditional four-wall inventory, four-wall optimization, four-wall productivity to network level productivity, optimization, and execution, right?
Hmm.
So that's you need more than a WMS. You need to start thinking that, okay, when I'm designing something, I'm looking at a broader execution. And that's how we can solve the problem, right? The second is also you can look at not broader inventory life cycle,
Hmm.
order life cycle, and financial life cycle. And then design systems that is flexible. And then keep ability to change any parts to adapt to the modern needs. That's very critical.
And that's actually a very good point. I think, and that's what another thing I had a question around that as well for you. Was like, as you think about DOS, WMS software landscape and the evolution and where it is heading. You have been in industry for a while, so I think you have seen different variations of WMSs or WMS step changes. If you have to paint a picture for us when it comes to warehouse software landscape, specifically WMS, WES, WCS softwares, because it's pretty much involves integrating with automation and robotics. Um, can you help us understand, like, what have you seen, where it was, where it is going, and what the future holds for us when it comes to three different software layers or just integration layer? If you will?
See, the traditional WMS, when it was created as a part of as an inventory management within a four wall, evolved into an warehouse management, right? Because it started with an inventory tracker, right? That's what um, the SKU itself, that was the original, right? Stock keeping unit, right? That's how it started, right? And you think about it, okay, where is my stock? What location? So I can go grab it, right? Or whether from a raw material, from a finished goods, it was a simple operation. And traditionally, you moved in bulk, where you had an unit inside a box and a pallet. And traditionally, okay, I need to move in a pallet and how many pallets in a location and how optimized my pallet locations are, how I break it down and how I store it, and you have racks and everything. But if you think about it, traditional industry itself has changed, right? In the 80s and 90s, when it really penetrated more, it was all towards a push model of retail flow, right? Because your consumer consumption was through a retail store. So you're always optimized to sending this to a retail store. Whether I'm sending to the second level came into, okay, I'm going to get to a distributor and wholesaler, and then it's going to the retail store, because the things of manufacturing to directly to the retailer was a little bit expensive process. So then you had a wholesaler or distributor coming in between. So it matured over a period of time. Then still you had a pallet, then you had a breakdown of a case, and then the case gets shipped to a retail store, then you had a unit picking there. With Amazon, the one thing that changed was you had an experience in the store. All your stores were designed to be the most optimal execution, and everything was there. With Amazon, the convenience changed, right? Because it was supposed to be delivered to your doorstep in a simple, easy fashion using parcel e-commerce. So that means your network has to be redesigned, because now the unit picking has moved from a retail store to a warehouse, where your pickers are your similar to a consumer, where pickers are going and picking a product for you. So your WMS requirements has changed, because in a store you don't need a system except the POS. Whereas in
Correct.
WMS, it has now become a directive, right? To how to direct the user to go pick the product from a specific location, what unit, optimization. And then it came a productivity optimization around that. Then you have the developments. Okay, I'm going to do manual picking, RF picking to validate what you picked is where. Then the UPC came into pictures, validating scan. So the maturity of WMS happened from a pallet flow to more of a unit picking flow. Right? Now that WMS now evolved when I had, so basically I had experience, I had a convenience factor. Now we are going to get into engagement factor today, right? Where because you're engaging with different marketplaces, you are different products that you want to pick and select, consumer customization, hyper personalization is coming to picture. So the complexity of execution is changing completely network level. So your WMS also has to mature to support that level of complexity. And then because of e-commerce and e-commerce penetration and growth, you have to focus on optimization,
Mhm.
efficiency, productivity gains,
Correct.
right? So now when you have a lot of different parameters, because traditionally my parameters were very simple, moving one unit of measure is pallet. Now it became case. Now it become units. Now it can become combo, kitted products. Because you go to a website, you can select, hey, I want an shoe, I want an this product, and I want to save it as my personal hyper item because I'm going to reorder. Now you become the customer is creating a new SKU for you,
Correct.
right? So the complexity is continuously changing over a period of
Mhm.
time. So your maturity in your WMS or your solution has to think outside. The second aspect is, okay, now you traditional WMS, we moved from a pallet case picking to a more of a unit picking. Then you add ability to say, okay, now a customer is ordering one item, now it's ordering two items, three items, four items. I need to basically find a way to deliver a optimized delivery to customer. Logistics cost has to come down. So I need to cartonize, find the
Mm.
efficient carton where I can find one box to the customer. And now the other aspect is if customer orders two different products, two different times, two different orders, still combine them and send them to delivery because your delivery freight charges have gone up, your cost of logistics has gone up. How do you optimize that? That means there's a changes in the warehouse. External factor. If freight cost goes up, you need to optimize your warehouse. And it running and being in a warehouse, running in warehouse, it's not just easy to cartonize two different products from multiple different zones if you don't have the visibility
Yeah.
and flow. And with dynamic changing. Think about all these e-commerce 3PLs in my own building. We used to have multiple different emerging brands.
Yeah.
They have a SKU today, they have a SKU tomorrow, they have things change continuously. So there's not a defined profile. Okay, I can
Yeah.
design a system today. 3 months later, the profile changes.
Yeah.
I need to be dynamic to them. Otherwise, I'm going to lose them as a customer
Yeah.
because they need solutions today, not 6 months later.
Correct.
So you need to continuously be open and receptive to supporting these emerging brands. Even established brands, they want to be near to the customer all the time. They want to
Mhm.
be near where the customers are. So they are looking for 3PLs who can solve their problem, a specific problem. They
Yeah.
may have three distribution centers throughout. They want a distribution center, fourth distribution center, fifth, sixth. They want to expand fast, right? It doesn't matter that it's emerging brands, established brands. The requirements of warehousing is changing dynamically, right? So pallet, case, unit, dynamic units, dynamic SKUs, customer requirements, and customers adding customer requirements more from value-added services. I want a branding, I want a gift wrap, I want a monogram. So the value-added services are now changing,
Yeah.
right? So the continuous evolvement of customer requirements and looking at a cycle of change, you need to have a streamless flow of systemic WMS changes as well.
Correct.
So one, your WMS has to think outside the four walls, looking at the network level. Going back to my point number one, we have to look from more than a WMS, looking at the network level. Two, modern systems. It is not just warehouse management. It's a combination of warehouse management, transportation management, and order management. Because when you look from an order capture, order orchestration, order fulfillment, and order delivery, you have a broader fulfillment system that needs to be thought through. You cannot look systems from a siloed perspective. You need to
Exactly.
have a single source of truth. So one of the things we have done at OSA, where we provide the complete fulfillment solution, is just giving you a perspective, right?
Yeah.
What
Of
we have
course.
done, and that maybe help you as well, your viewers as well from a different perspective is we enable customers like we run our own 3PL. So we support 3PLs and retailers and brands as well. We developed the software in our own 3PL and matured it, and it's well received in the industry from that perspective, right? Because it focuses on operational efficiency, cost reduction, customer satisfaction, right? So what we do, we provide a complete solution where a 3PL, I'm talking from a 3PL perspective, right? A 3PL can onboard a brand onto the platform. We provide a platform which is white label. which enables a 3PL to provide to their customers, retailers, and brands to onboard them, self onboarding by the brand into this. Select which stores they want to be in their own store, their own web store, own marketplaces, and where they want to be. We onboard them. We put all the products in and different demand channels based on their selection. We do enable pre-order capture because again, it is although it's a WMS outside WMS, right? Extended out. So we connect to all the demand channels. We do a post-order capture. We factor in engagement because if say the brand's customer is shopping in a Walmart or Target or Etsy, they really don't know what the brand is. They know the marketplace or the retailer they shop. The brand is not associated. If they want to engage, we provide a post-engagement module to engage with the customer from that perspective. And then we do order management, where we do three things different than any WMS today. We do one, determine where do more of a network fulfillment. Where is the most efficient way in a prescriptive direction of fulfilling that order? Looking at inventory positions across the network, whether it's a manufacturing site, dropship site, stores, whether it is an full e-commerce site or an traditional retail stores or an distribution center, we find the best one to focus to deliver to the customer based on the inventory constraints, transportation constraints, validated constraints. And actually, we do cartonization at the order management level. So that's a big change compared to traditional warehouse management because it's too late to consolidate, right? At the warehouse order management, we'll try to consolidate and say, okay, what is the best to cartonize? Now, there's two parts to it. One part is I can send this cartonization from to a transportation TMS, determine which is the best way to deliver. Plan to send. If say I have two facilities, I have the inventory. The two facilities have the same cartonization capabilities and physically and shipping the product. Now with the cartonization, I'm sending it to the transportation to determine which is the cheapest one from a delivery standpoint. Traditionally, I would not plan because I have not cartonized. I've just planned the order level. But when it goes to the warehouse, it may go into two cartons. Then you get a lot of variations, exceptions. You really don't know, right? Right now, I exactly know based on because I'm doing that accurate cartonization at the order management level. Now I know the transportation. Now I can deliver to tell the customer that I am able to deliver to you on this date, this time, give the customer an estimated time. Second aspect there is, traditionally I used to do parcel deployment. Now there are a lot of LTLs and even Amazon delivery is a classic example, right? There are a lot of smaller, multiple local courier and everything. So now I have broader transportation orchestration. Not only I have order orchestration from an inventory perspective, I have ability to orchestrate across transportation. I'm able to now I've captured the order, engaged the customer, done cartonization and orchestration, then find the fulfillment inventory to send the product in, go fulfill the product. Within the warehouse management, now I have carton determined, my transportation is determined. Now I need to find where do I actually pick, pack, and ship. And that is basically whether through automation or manual, and all those automatizations come into picture. The other aspect of WMS now is after picking, what do I pack? Now, in the packing, also there is a challenge, right? Because now I need to do value-added services. I need to put a gift wrap. I need to put a different ability to branding. So there's engagement. There has to be dynamic. I can't dedicate a pack station to a brand. So that's another requirement change, right? Then coming to the delivery to the final delivery. Then going back, right? So traditional warehouse management has evolved into a network warehouse management, is what I would call network fulfillment, which has to capture from looking at three aspects: inventory life cycle, order life cycle, and delivery life cycle or financial life cycle as well, right? So that's the aspect of it, because now all the order orchestration and what we did also needs to look at from inbound optimization as well. You cannot act inbound in silos. You need to look at what is coming in, where do I store, based on historical order performance, based on future prediction of orders. You need to find the best put away strategy also, right? To put away in automation, I'm putting in automation or putting in different zones, how I'm going to merge. So that's what the evolvement is happening continuously. So you have to look at what I'm again, going back, looking at the business case and business problem I'm solving, looking at the network level, and then finding the most efficient way of delivering it. So your evolution of warehouse management today has to be thinking at the network level.
Yeah. And thank you for that insightful answer. I think it definitely is is important. I think you make a very solid point that it's not just within the four walls anymore. It's beyond the four walls, and we have to think about it from a network fulfillment side of it. I think, and I think we are. I want to wrap this up today, but I think it has been a great conversation, Padhu. I think one thing that I got from this conversation was that a flexibility is very important, and two, change is constant. So those are the two things that I think. And to answer, like, change is gonna be there, and you need to be flexible to adapt to that changes. So I think again, thank you for spending time with us. I think this has been a great conversation. I learned actually a lot today. When I've been always focused on the four walls, but I think that anything that is with impacts the four walls has to be from the network perspective.
What
Any
we call as a network multiplier, right? So
network. Mhm.
I'll repeat what you said. In today's entire e-commerce omni-channel rests on four key pillars. You have to look from a network effect, which we call as a network multiplier. We have to look at outside the four walls, right? It has to be flexible, adaptable, scalable, and automation is there to solve many other problems, but it has to look from a business purpose perspective, looking at a man-machine efficiency in the best optimized way, looking at all the constraints across the network to solve that problem. Again, looking at the people process platform.
No, that's actually a very solid point. Man, human, machine kind of thing, conversation. So thank you, Padhu. Really appreciate your time spending with us. I think and educating on how to think about when it comes to automation, WMSs, and the whole landscape around optimizing.
You have been listening to Robot Forward Warehousing Podcast with Padhu. Stay connected with us by subscribing to the show on your favorite podcast player. If you like what you heard, please rate us and help us reach more warehouse robotics practitioners. Thank you for listening. Until next time.